This first batch, bullying, insensitivity, focus on self, excessive anger, broody mood swings, jock mentality. I think that people who are like that, most ladies will probably be like, right? But somehow, especially if they have money, they get their way. You know, Trump talks like this and behaves like this. It doesn't matter whether you like him or not. That's his history, right? Oh, grab them by the pussy. Like, who says that? Like, you know? And was it yesterday he was using the F word? Like, you know, but that's the kind, when we say those people have a jock mentality, you know, aggressive, like the world is for men, you know, boys will be boys, you know, that kind of thing. And you may see people like that and be like, oh, you know, let me be careful about this guy. Unfortunately, that is not the major modus operandi. And I will show you that shortly. The U.S. Center for Justice for Sex Offenders has these characteristics of those who actually end up sexually offending. But the majority will be like Martin Bashir. Martin Bashir was the interviewer who got the royal family crumbling. There were already issues between Lady Diana and Prince and Prince Charles and all of that. But Bashir, and by the way, even up to 3 years ago, there were investigations into this, into how come the BBC let this thing slip. How come? Because this guy literally, let me show you what I put here. What Martin Bashir did to Princess Diana is something all women can relate to. Why? He earned her trust. He found a way into her heart. And that's the thing with these predators. They earn your trust. Lunch 1, you see, they talk about your career progression. You know, lunch 2, let's talk about, you know, margins, their strategic plan. You know, lunch 3. So you're like, oh, this person, he's a daddy to me, he's a daddy to me. Or he's my mentor, or something, you know. Martin Bashir and Lady Diana's trust to the extent that she was aware they were slipping cameras into Kensington Palace and allowed it. He forged bank statements to make it look as if she's being monitored, you know, there's a conspiracy, you know. And so someone wrote an article, Tamara Agawa wrote this article, and said the threat of violence and harassment preys on women's minds like a circling vulture. Walking home at night sends a chill down our spines. Is that person stalking me home? Seeing a group of men laughing boisterously makes our breath hitch. Are they going to jeer and catcall me? Sorry that you live in this world. I'm really sorry that you live in this world, that people like me have made difficult. And I yearn that this will be a better world, that our workplaces will be a better place, because I have 4 daughters. 4 daughters. Leaving drinks unattended at a party is terrifying, right? Is my drink going to be spiked? Even something as simple as choosing an outfit is overwhelming. Do my boobs or butt look too big? Is someone going to grab me? Do I look too sexual? Women don't think this way because we're emotional or crazy, Tamara says. As some people like to label us, we just don't want to be the next victim. And a lot of times it is someone who earns your trust, who then pounces. And it's interesting we're using the word predator, because that's how predators behave. You know, have you noticed the cat? Yeah, anybody from the cat family, the feline family, it's like uninterested. The cat, you know, walking around. It's called entrapment. Entrapment. I got you there. Sorry. But basically, it could be just subtleties. You know, little text messages, some funny emojis, whatever. It could come that way. It could be as serious as crossing the line from consensual encounters into control or aggression, or sinking literally into coercive sexual acts like rape, etc., etc. So it's a wide continuum. In fact, it's such a wide continuum that I actually feel that sometimes the world gets too, like, a guy comes and sneezes around you, hey, predator, waba, you know. Honestly, especially, I told you we lived in Canada since 2009, you know, and in that environment, Sometimes I'm like, oh, really? It can get, but I think that Ghana is also at the other extreme, where people get away with unbelievable things. Like, you see, I'm using you enough as an example. Like, you come say, oh, and to say, hey, my big girl, and meanwhile, he's hitting you and what's all massage you, so and then they'll shake your hand and won't let it go. So I think that I may be coming from one extreme in Canada where it's like people are like, but sometimes that protects us. I'll tell you something that happened to me personally that I was really upset about, because I know my life, I know my record, my wife knows my dealings. It's a young lady who used to work with us, white girl, very beautiful young lady, Italian background, and but I could realize she wasn't very confident, So we wrote a letter for her when she was going to college, she was admitted to college, etc. So once I went to Montreal, and we'll be back in Ghana for about 4 years now. So I go sometimes, my wife sometimes, we still have some work there. And I've even forgotten the context of the conversation. But I mentioned today that, you do well, you have potential, etc. You're such a beautiful young lady, The next thing I knew, I had just written a new book called Africa to the Rest. We're going to launch that book in our church that evening. The next thing I knew, I got a call. The book launch had been cancelled. I was like, what's going on? So, well, somebody came to report you to us. I said, what are you talking about? This lady who had worked with us for 3 or 4 years, I had not even touched her like this or anything, had gone to tell the pastors that, I had said she was beautiful and this. And I am telling you. And you see, culture is important. You see, in the Western world, and that's one of the things that I may ask you to adopt when it comes to praying men. In the Western world, generally, confidence in you or trust in you starts from 0, and you earn it. I think we do the opposite. We start from 100%. Oh, Papa, you're in the yeah. Or such a dada figure or whatever, right? And then when he does 1 or 2 things, you're like, hey, 98. That's like, 94. I think that, but in that society, because guess what? Great men have been caught praying. You understand what I'm saying? So, yeah, they know you are Dr. Perby, you are this and that, blah, blah, blah. But, I had to fight. And thank God, my wife knows. I told you, I married a virgin. I've never slept with anybody but my wife. That's my life. No, seriously. And I hear you struggle to get a speaker for tonight because some people are like, I don't qualify. Which is actually a shame. I was very sad when I heard that, and this is not a brag, it's just God's grace. And some things we put in place. But, and I remember someone saying on Facebook the other day, I was talking about this whole side chickism, and people think that it's a rite of passage. I'm like, you can't be serious. Then this young lady, who I don't know, had the nerve to say on Facebook, you are talking like this just because you have not been caught. Oh, yeah. And I like her comfy because, she's coming from somewhere. She knows the people she's dealt with, maybe even the president. I don't care. Oh, don't go there. And so I said to her, I dare you. I dare you. I'm still waiting for her. But it's an assumption that everybody, Anyway, so I will say that incident shook me. But I think that it also saved me. Because, you've heard the statement, thank God you were caught looking over the fence. Right? Because you might have ended up stealing the horse. So I thank God for that incident. Because it's made me extra careful. Because sometimes, and then, in fact, the girls own and we are fine with the family. It was a very bizarre thing. Because the parents were like, oh, I almost mentioned the girl's name. How could you do this? But when we sat down, we saw that there's a family history of this. The mother was raped. Again, by somebody that she knew, right? Guess what? This is somebody's house. You've been working with this man, all this while. Maybe it's time to pounce. Oh my goodness. But honestly, you never know somebody's story. right? So it may trigger this, it may trigger that. But I learned my lesson, honestly. I think that we're getting away with too much in this country. Yeah, the guys are getting away with too much. And a young lady complained about a particular company to me. I was shocked. This is one of our blue chip companies. And what the guys saying, and the national service girls, and how, I'm like, how can you even say that? Like, think it, so we don't even know. I think our standards are way too low when it comes to this. And we must not be as knee-jerky as other contexts, but I think that, anyway. So nearly 1 in 5 women in the US, I don't know the Ghana stats, but just to give us an idea, are raped or sexually assaulted at some point in their lives. That is horrible. That's like 20%, and I'm sure it's higher in Ghana, unfortunately, because it could even be just school fees, you know. Not to mention getting into the police. Hey. Getting into uniform. You have to get into your underwear before you get into uniform. Approximately 80% of sexual assaults, the survivor knew the rapist. All right. By the way, there's a strong correlation between being assaulted and mental health disorders.